Hey everyone, welcome back to another MotoCamp Adventure review video. Today I've got the held Airstream 2 gloves. Not really a new glove or anything. It's been out on the market for a while now. I've had these for well over a year. I have over 25,000 miles on them, definitely, probably closer to 30. I purchased them off Revzilla. I got them for about 170 at the time. Right now they're going for 175 on Revzilla. Just before I get into the review, let's talk about legality stuff because these have a kangaroo leather palm. California right now doesn't allow importation of anything kangaroo leather. I seemingly bought these when that ban was in effect. I'm not really sure how I got them from Revzilla. They didn't really try to stop me or anything, and Revzilla sent them straight to my place in San Francisco. So couldn't tell you how that worked, but yeah, that aside, I guess what I should say is the reason I'm telling you that is because it might be very hard to get if you're in California, which is probably half of you watching this, at least. So let's get into the review though. I bought these to replace my GS Rally Pro gloves. These were actually pretty solid dirt gloves and good summer gloves too. I kind of used them on the road more than anything, but I ended up crashing them. Kind of blew a hole through some parts here, and they're well worn. They got some use. I really like them though. They serve their purpose well. Sort of this palm slider material worked for me. You'll see. I'll bring that up later in this review. But yeah, it kind of blew out in both palms. But this is a kangaroo leather glove, and it held up really well. Not that I was going very fast when I crashed, but kind of a weird crash. Yeah, so I bought these for that. Not specifically for dirt riding. My idea was use these for all of the road riding, and then when I hit the dirt, when I hit the dirt, I would just wear some dirt gloves. These are literally just some Fox dirt paw, I think they're called. I did a review on these about a year ago, I think. They're now blowing out on me. But yeah, this really doesn't offer much protection at all. Off-road, it's probably fine if you're not going very fast, but sometimes they do that too. And a lot of times in adventure riding, you're on and off the road quite a bit. So it's kind of not the most practical thing, which means that I actually ended up wearing these in the dirt a lot too. And, you know, they did work well. The problem is in California, everything's super dry, and you get into a lot of sandy bits and whatnot, and there's a lot of dust that ends up getting all over your gear. And so these collected quite a bit of dust, and I've cleaned them off a few times. I think I used neat's foot oil, which I'm not even sure if you're supposed to use on kangaroo leather, but it seemingly worked fine. So yeah, I guess kangaroo leather is the biggest thing here. For me, that's something I really look for in a glove if I can get it. Of course, with California, I don't really think I can get that anymore, but I really, really prefer having this kangaroo leather because it's very thin. You get really good tactile feel on the controls. And it's also one of the strongest leathers, I think, to the point where they even perforated this, and it's still seemingly held up pretty well. I haven't crashed in these, thankfully. I don't intend to. I'm going to retire these, I think, at this point. I just got a new pair of gloves to replace these. But yeah, they've held up pretty well. They have a Kevlar reinforced material at the top here, I think. It seemingly has Kevlar, and I think this is a cowhide leather on the top. I don't think they did kangaroo leather all the way through, but that's definitely not a deal breaker for me. I don't think that this is really an area that a lot of people end up wearing through, and even if they do, cowhide is definitely sufficient for the most part. You've got this wrist protector here, which is probably useful. It's not like, you can kind of see I bend it quite a bit and whatnot, but it's definitely better than having nothing there. And of course, you've got this palm slider here. So this has sort of a super fabric material with just a padding underneath. It's not a hard palm slider. I kind of do prefer a hard one if I can get it sometimes, but a lot of gloves don't have those because a lot of people don't like having the thing on their hand when they're, they got their hand on the throttle or whatever. Personally, that's not an issue for me, but there's also not a lot of gloves that have them. You've got a hard knuckle protector on the top here with sort of some venting along the top. I'm not really sure that the vents worked super well, but also I will say that the only motorcycle I was really riding with these on was my GS, which has handguards on it, so that blocked a lot of wind. which is great for, winter time and whatnot when it gets colder. It really allows me to use these down to temperatures, say in like the high 40s even with heated grips and the handguards. But during the summer, the handguards sometimes can be a little too much, and I don't really quite want them. But I just leave them on because it's the easiest thing to do. So yeah, in terms of ventilation, when I pull my hands off my handlebars and put them underneath, sometimes I just literally like sit my hand underneath my handlebar or above it or something. These things flow air pretty good. They're definitely well vented. I don't think I've had better ventilation in terms of any other glove. Not that I've really bought many summer specific gloves. I usually buy more of the Gore-Tex style gloves and whatnot. But after having kind of a frustrating experience with the Climb Adventure long gloves and their Gore-Tex liner, I kind of just said, you know what, I don't really need the waterproof liner. California barely rains anyway, and when it does, it rains for like a month straight, and that's when I just put on my other gloves. So yeah, these are my primary gloves for the last year and a half, pretty much. On top, you've got these finger protectors, which I don't really know if these ever do anything on any gloves, but they always seemingly put them there. You've got one on the pinky. You've even got a little super fabric on the pinky here. I'm assuming that's probably more for low side crashes and more track day type stuff. So let's talk about the one closure method on this, which is just the Velcro. The Velcro held up pretty well. I didn't have, I know sometimes gloves, these Velcro patches are not stitched on well and they come off sometimes. This held up perfectly fine. The Velcro itself isn't great at the moment. It's pretty loose. If I put it on and I kind of mess with it, it gets a little better. Honestly, I think if I crashed with these open, I'd probably be fine unless I was in some weird position where it would want to pull off my glove. But I really don't see that to be an issue. So yeah, when it gets really windy and stuff, I've noticed that these do come off and flap around in the wind, and they get pretty annoying, and I end up spending too much time focusing and trying to get them back to where they need to be. Which is, not really the safest thing. That's how you crash, which is when you get complacent and you do that type of stuff. But for the most part, I mean, it held up well enough for me. I don't really have many complaints at this point. If I can get 25,000 miles out of a glove, I'm usually pretty happy. So you've got sort of this, I don't even want to really call it a gauntlet because it's not a full gauntlet. It's sort of like a medium half gauntlet thing. I don't have my jacket on right now, but I can definitely put this over the cuff of my Climb Badlands jacket. So you got enough room to do that. I also have really, really thin wrists. I'm a super skinny dude. So generally speaking, I can go underneath as well if I really wanted to. Depends on how you like to wear them. I usually like to go over the cuff. I just think the idea that if you're crashing and you're sliding on this material going backwards rather than pulling your cuff up on your jacket. I don't know how true that is, and I really don't know, like, statistically speaking, how that works. But really, there's so little statistics on motorcycle crashes. You're pretty much dealing with I think the Hurt report, which came out like how many years ago. Nobody even knows how reliable that is. It's just one report, so it really isn't that useful to go off of. So yeah, I mean these do tend to they're not really long enough to stay over my cuff all the time. Sometimes my cuff kind of pops out a little bit depending on how I have everything set up. Sometimes that's okay. I actually sometimes prefer that during the heat. I really like running these short cuff gloves because it actually let air breathe into that part of my jacket, which I didn't experience before. So I don't really have an issue with that. Like I said, if I can get a gauntlet, I usually prefer it just because I like maximum protection pretty much when I can get it. So one thing I really, really like about these gloves, and I feel like every single glove should have them, is this squeegee. So this is for your visor when it starts to rain. I don't care how many people say, just use Windex or, what is it? Not Windex, Rain-X on your face shield. I don't care how many people say that they just use that and it works, because the thing is that wears off quickly, for me at least. It's never worked for me personally, but with this, I just, pass it over my face, and, one pass is enough for me to look through my visor, no problem. So I really, really prefer that. And you're saying, why would you need that on a summer vented glove? Well, the reality is, I get caught in a lot of weird rain shit around here in San Francisco and the surrounding area when I least expect it, or it just gets really foggy sometimes, and it's so foggy that all that it starts condensing on my face shield, and then I need to wipe it off. So it's almost like riding in rain sometimes. It gets that foggy and misty. So lastly, let's talk about durability here. Like I said, I've got 25,000 miles on this. You can see on this glove, I've got the perforated leather, I think, is starting to fall apart, and the stitching, I think, probably didn't hold everything in place. So everything's kind of worn. I tried to take care of this. You can see the stitching is coming apart here too. I'm definitely due for gloves. So on the right hand side, my middle finger completely blew out at this point. That's really the main thing that's making me change gloves now, because I don't really trust that anymore in a crash. Granted, I feel like most crashes you're probably going to be trying to catch yourself, catch this, but you don't know how you're going to crash every time. So that's why we wear full gear all the time. So overall, I'm pretty happy with these things. I would buy another pair. The main reason I didn't is because, one, I like to review stuff. I like to change up what I got and check out what's good and try to give you guys reviews that are useful. And second thing is obviously the kangaroo leather thing in California, where I can't really import them legally. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. I won't get into the politics of that personally, but yeah, I highly recommend these things if you are capable of getting them. I'm not going to tell you where to buy them. I bought these with my own money. Some people say that it's more biased of a review if you buy it with your own money. I think it's less biased of a review because you're not held hostage by some company telling you to review it and expecting you to give it a good review. I didn't really talk about fitment. So these are a size 8. I usually wear a size large in pretty much every other glove. I've got the Climb Adventure long gloves. Just recently bought the Revit Sand 3 gloves, and those are both larges for me. I think the Fox Dirt Paw I've got, those gloves I think are large, and the GS Pros I'm an 8 as well. That's the European sizing for us Americans that apparently just like t-shirt sizes. So yeah, the cool part about that is you can get it fit really well. The thing is you have to measure it correctly. This definitely took some time to break in, so it felt very stiff in the beginning and almost felt like I needed a size bigger. But if you just stick it out and ride for about, probably put about 10 to 12 hours worth of use on these things, they really break in well to your hand. I've been really happy with them. One thing that I really wish these had, which is definitely not a deal breaker for me, is the little loops at the end of these gloves. So these Climb ones have it. Basically, it's just a loop that helps you get the glove on like that. That's useful for that, of course, but I also use it to clip gloves onto my jacket via carabiner. And it's just a convenient way to carry around gloves without putting them inside your helmet, because gloves get kind of gross, and I don't want to put those inside my helmet all the time. So yeah, that's the full review of these gloves. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope a lot of you guys go out and buy these things, honestly, because I absolutely love them. I've got another friend who wears these exclusively, and he's had 2 pairs now. He's on the second pair, I think. I've got another separate friend who has them, and he really likes them. So all around, I think it's just a solid glove. I mean, they really knocked it out of the park with the stitching. Everything seemed to hold together really well, except for until very, very recently. I'll bet you that this blowout on the middle finger here probably happened within the past 2,000 miles of use. Yeah, I've just gone too long without changing them out. Thanks for watching, guys. Go ride safe. Don't crash. Go do hooligan stuff. See ya.